Welcome to Dakota Starry Nights, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to the channel. I got a review here of a scope that kind of caught my attention. I mean, it was on sale with Christmas holiday, Black Friday. They've reduced this thing down to where a guy would have a hard time to say no. So what this is the SVBONY 122 Triplet. Now that triplet has one ED element and it's FPL 51. It's O'Hara Japanese glass. And the first thing I noticed was how light it is. And it's still in the box. I haven't unboxed it, but yeah, I was like, wow, for a triplet 122, this is pretty light. It comes with a case. It's nice. I mean, it's padded. Nice nylon, has a handle, and it also has a zipper. It's divided here in the middle, so you've got two compartments right here. I saw this one report, and it was said that on Venus there was no chromatic aberration. I just didn't quite believe that. Not at this price point. That's how it is there. So if you're just doing visual, you'll probably be okay with the Vixen, but I'm going to be doing some imaging, so I want to put a Los Manny plate. Really nice eggshell finish, a matte finish. The rings are really nice from what I can see. What I like about it, that they're tapped here on the side as well as the top. And they're also tapped right here. And so you got taps here, here, and there. The focuser does come with a shoe for a finder scope, which is nice. And let's see, I'm going to undo this. It rotates. That's the first thing you want to check before you go messing with anything else, is that your focuser is parallel to the light beam. So that it's not, you know, tweaked like this, it's right dead center to the light beam. Because if it's off one way or another, you're going to get chromatic aberration and you're going to think, wow, this scope's a piece of crap. And it may be not at all. Maybe that you need to collimate your focuser. So that's the first thing I do when I get a new scope, is I check the focus. After that, then you can check your inside to see if the lens cell itself needs any collimating. I'm working on something that will make that process a little bit easier. So if you haven't subscribed, I suggest you do. So when that posts, you'll be able to take advantage of that. Okay, back to the refractor. Fit and finish looks great. We'll say that. Cover, nice, it's felt lined. And it's fully multi-coated, has the triplet APO, no serial number. It is 122mm f7. It doesn't come with a 2" to 1.25" reducer. It does have compression bands. It's 3 screws for the 2" side, which is good. It has a brake on the bottom, and it is a 10-to-1, and let's see how that feels. It goes up to about 87 in travel. Silky smooth. The other thing too, you can remove this part here on the focuser. There are 3 grub screws here, and this twists out and that'll give you M63 threads, male. And so you can connect your camera or different accessories, filter wheel, camera rotator, if it's set up for M63 thread, which is better because you got a solid lock and you're not shifting it one way or another. Let's see how this retracts out. Comes out quite a ways. There, stops there. Let's see how deep it is. 6.5 inches. Okay, so now overall extended, it's only 34.5 inches long, extended. And it is, like I said, it's pretty light. I'll have no trouble mounting this, really, none. I don't see a problem with an AM5 or a Skywatcher 150i. Should easily handle this without no trouble at all. Because I like to go out in the field and image. So that means I need to be able to have equipment that I could easily handle. Okay, I'm going to shine a light down in there and see what the baffle situation looks like. The interior of the tube looks really clean, immaculate, and so does the lens. And there are 3 baffles. The paint looks great too. And the dew shield looks fantastic. So we're going to collapse this. This is a little tricky, but from what I'm seeing, it's a little out of collimation, just a little. The focuser looked like it was nice and square, and so the collimation here looks like it's pretty close. Now, this is not a ding on the scope. This thing has been shipped from Hong Kong. The fact that that's all it is and the focuser is pretty square, you know, I mean, it looked like it was packed pretty good. First we unlock it. Just a little bit, don't take much. There, that's probably enough just to crack it. Okay guys, that did it. So I'm gonna button this up and put the shield back on and take it out under the stars, and now I know that it's collimated, and so any chromatic aberration I see is due to the correction in the triplet itself and not due to it being not collimated. It was really close, really, and it might have been good enough for most anybody, to tell you the truth. It was very close. Because I'm doing a review here, I want to make sure that I've got this as best as it can be as far as collimation, so any observations I make are not being influenced by a scope that's out of collimation, which would be unfair. So now we're doing this night vision, and rather than me explain it to you, why don't you take a look? I'll put the phone on it. There you go, that was easy enough. Okay, so there it is in video with this SVBONY 5nm hydrogen alpha filter and SVBONY 122 Triplet F7. Now that's pretty good, guys. Now that's Orion M42. And it looks way better than what it's looking like in the camera right now, but yeah, I'm pretty impressed with it. I'm liking it. Let's go to a little more magnification. There, let me bump that up a little bit. You can see that a little better. Now it's showing that the core is blown out, but actually through the eyepiece it's not. You can really see the trapezium in there, and you can get right down the core, and it also has some beautiful envelopment with the molecular cloud structure. It almost looks like a 3D deal. So now this is a Skywatcher Wave 150i. I have a carbon fiber tripod on it, and it doesn't seem to interfere with the tripod, which is one of the things I liked about the body. It was pretty short, and yet it's an f7 and 854mm focal length. Doesn't seem to bang into this tripod. The focuser is really solid. It feels like a great focuser. Okay, so I had to put a 35mm extension on there with the star diagonal in order to reach focus. Now remember, that's a 55 Plasso with the converter. And focus wise, we're just under the limit of 80. So I believe it's 87. So we're like 7 millimeters under the limit. Okay, so I figured before I left Orion, I'd go over to the Horsehead IC434, and you know, we're in Bortle 5 skies, maybe 6, so it's not the greatest, and the Horsehead is challenging either under dark skies, but guys, I got it in the eyepiece. Now it's not like super defined, but you can see the bump, you can see the notch, and you can see Alnitak and the Flame Nebula right next to it, so check it out. Now that was pretty cool. I mean, to get that in town like that, yeah. All right, we'll see you on the next test. Okay folks, so it's like 20 degrees or just a shade under. I've got a ASI Air 533 color cam and a Antlia tri-band filter, and I got a guide scope there, an ASCAR 35mm guide scope, a Skywatcher Wave 150i. So we're on Orion right now, and this is the imaging side of the equation. I have an Orion star diagonal in here, and also I have a filter tray and a camera rotator, manual rotator here, and I had to rack it all the way in to where it's only about maybe 3 or 4 millimeters left of play. Now the Orion star diagonal has a collar here that kind of takes up some back focus, so if you had a regular star diagonal, I think you'd be a little bit further back. But I tried the camera without a star diagonal and I couldn't come to focus, so I needed to come out further, and I didn't want to put a bunch of extenders on it, so I used the star diagonal. So you can come to a focus, and I guess it just depends which route you want to go. Anyway, we're going to take a couple of subs here and see how this will pull in the data with a 533 and without a field flattener, because I want to see what it'll do just without a field flattener and a 533. Okay, so I'm going to start this guiding sequence and start pulling in some data, and when I get something, we'll show it to you. All right, see you in a bit. All right, guys, this is the result of that Antlia tri-band filter. This is 6 5-minute subs stacked in Cyril with minimal processing. No blur exterminator, no AI, just a simple stretch, bias, darks, and flats calibration frames. And let's zoom in 100%. Now, because these were 5-minute subs and the guiding wasn't great, these stars did elongate, and that created some chromatic aberration here. If you notice, they're all on the same side. They're the lower side. And this is at 100, and this is no blur exterminator, nothing like that. Now let's move over to the image without the stars and calibrated with color. The color brought out, and it's pretty decent. I mean, this is 100% again, and here's the trapezium, so we got that under control. So now this image has been sharpened, unmasked, sharped, stretched, and also ran it through Topaz Denoise AI. Here is that image with the stars put back. This is at 100%. And you can notice some blue chromatic aberration there. We're still getting the trapezium and the core, which is always light. And you can see some blue around this star and this star. And now these stars have been stretched a little bit separately in order to bring out some color. This is good. I mean, you have to remember, this is not a $4,000, $5,000 triplet, okay? You have to keep the price point in mind. If you're looking for results like that, then you're going to have to spend that kind of money. Now, what really tells the story, this is infrared UV cut filter, and these are 2-second subs because the Orion was so bright and in town. And this tells a little better story. And the reason is these stars are not elongated, okay, because the subs were so short, and at that time it was east of the meridian and everything was lined up better, so I was getting better tracking. And if you look here, this is at 100%. This has just been calibrated with darks, bias frames, and flats, and that's it. And a little bit of curve to kind of bring out some of the color and lighten it up. And I'll tell you, I think that's not bad. Sure, I can see the chromatic aberration here, right there. Okay, yeah, I can see it. I mean, I didn't expect it to be totally clean, but if you look at here, the other interesting thing about this, without a field flattener, with a 533 ASI cam, and you can see it's flat. You don't need a field flattener if you're using a 533. These are in the upper corners, and look at that, guys. That's good. I mean, you'd be good to get that with a flattener in some cases. So these stars are looking pretty good. and there's no field flattener here. Now here I see a little bit of elongation with a little bit of blue here, but again, at this point I think we're pixel peeping, you know, but even at pixel peeping, for me, this looks fine. I'm okay with this. You know, I didn't expect 100% color correction. My question was how much correction we're going to get. Is it going to be adequate? Because I know it ain't going to be 100%. We'll zoom back to 50. Okay, so now this is just an image, flats, bias, darks, and a little bit of stretching, curve. That's it. No AI, no denoiser, nothing like that. That's pretty much what was there. The conditions were just average. It was shot under Bortle 6 skies. Let's look at the star field from the UV IR cut. So we're getting the full spectrum here. Now here's the star field, and this has been stretched a little bit so we can get some color. This is pretty good right here. We've got 2 stars. We've got a red star there just on the edge of this white star, and it's separated those two. Pretty nice, pretty nice. I see some blue chromatic aberration down here, but again, I think this is fine, okay? This is fine. This is 311 2-second exposures is what this is, okay? And the star colors are okay. We got some reddish stars here. We got sort of like a reddish blue here. Here's another little double star, that one there, and there's a little teeny one right up there. We'll bring that up a little higher. Right there, see that? So this is the star fields. And yeah, in town, Bortle 6. Okay. It's really about what your threshold is for money and for star correction. Now here's the image IR UV cut, and this has been cleaned up with denoiser, but not with blur exterminator. I don't have that. I just use Searle. And there it is there. Okay, so let's take a little closer look at 50. That's it. Now the denoiser, I noticed, cleaned up some of that aberration that was around some of these stars. Okay. As you can see, you don't see the aberration like you see before. So the denoiser did a nice job. Now, I've seen blur exterminator, and it results from blur exterminator other guys have, and it's pretty amazing what that can do. But if you can just do this with a simple denoiser, you see that? Look at that. And that's the corners. And this is UV IR, so it's the full spectrum, unlike the Antlia, which is really a narrow band RGB filter, 7 nanometers for each one of that TA, O3, and S2, which would cut, theoretically, some of that light scatter out. Because of the tracking wasn't that great, the stars didn't register quite right. But with 2 seconds, I was getting good star fields that weren't running out of alignment. And so when they stacked 300, remember this is 311, they stacked really nice on top of each other. And I got some nice tight stars for, this was focused also with just the algorithm in the air. I didn't use a Bathanoff mask or anything like that. But that's the results of the imaging session. Let's move on to the next test, which is going to be the big challenge, the moon. Welcome to the Hidden Valley Observatory Arena, everybody, and the main event of the evening. The moon being the brightest object in the night sky is a challenge for any scope. So we're going to be conducting two tests this evening. One is with a TeleVue Binoviews and two Hyperion 8x24 zoom eyepieces attached to the SVBONY 122 Triplet. We're also going to be using a TeleVue Radian 6mm, which is going to put the power up there about 140 power. And we'll be using a 10mm Delos, which would put the power at about 85 power. The other test is to test a generic field flattener, a Stellar Mirror 1X from First Light Optics, attached to an ASI 2600 C-Crop MC Pro, courtesy of Bill, who is with us here tonight. I will also be using that camera to run a live video stream so that you can judge for yourself the color correction. So, as soon as it gets dark, we're going to turn the camera back on and put the SVBONY to the test to see if it's a keeper. See you in a bit. Okay, so Bill is looking through that Delos so we can get a second opinion on this.
Well, it's very sharp throughout. Good field of view, that's for sure. And I'm not seeing any discoloration. No blue hues or yellowish hues. It's looking pretty good.
Okay, well that's kind of how I assessed it. Then I was like trying to pixel peep it, and I thought maybe I could make out a very microscopic thin green along the limb there between where the moon ends and the night sky begins. Really microscopic. I thought I might have been seeing it. I also thought maybe it's the moisture in the atmosphere causing that, because it is covered with cloud. Do you see anything like that?
Well, I see the atmosphere really is interfering right now.
It's certainly nothing that jumps out at you or that you would really notice. Right now, folks, the seeing is below average, the transparency is average, and the cloud cover is 3%. So all of those factors need to be taken into play. Thanks a lot, Bill. Appreciate that. Second opinion is always nice to have.
Glad to give it.
All right.
For what it's worth.
Well, Bill and I went through this with a couple of different magnifications. I got a 2x power made in here with the TeleVue Binoviews and the batter zoomers, and I'm able to achieve focus with this configuration without an extender, just a Meade star diagonal, and probably got about 20 millimeters of back focus left, so it went through 8 to 24 and it was no problem achieving focus. Now at 8 millimeters I was on Saturn and the view was mushy because the magnification was like 213, but it did come to focus, and it kind of like the sweet spot for tonight, the way the seeing is about 143 power, which would be the 12 millimeter on this, which puts it to the 6 millimeter on the Radian. I had the Radian in there by itself at 6 millimeter, 142 power. It was nice and crisp. I was able to get a nice crisp razor sharp view. What I like about it is I don't need an extender, and it's not coming way down out here with the 2X in here, which is kind of nice. So now it's been a real challenging night because it's windy right now. Also the clouds are coming and going over the moon, but we did get some moments of some clarity, and it was nice. Even at the 8 millimeter, although I think that was a little too much magnification for the seeing, so the view was a little mushy because of the seeing, but along the limb I didn't see any color. Okay, so that's the video. That's showing you what it's looking like, and there's some cloud around it, so we've got a little bit of a halo. You can see that thing bouncing around like a jello ball. Don't get too much jello going on. Yeah, that's sharp now. Yeah, I like that. Well, if you look at the limb, fellas, you know, I don't know, I don't see anything there.
know, so that gives you an indication of what we were seeing when we were looking through the eyepiece, and especially the bino views. There, that's settled down. That's nice. That's nice. Now, there's one other aspect of this review we've got to do, and that's taking the generic field flattener, the Stellar Mirror 1X, and putting it with the ASI 2600 MC cam. Basically, I'm just trying to establish whether a guy could use a 1X generic and get the field flat. All right, fellas, here we are. I don't have a guide scope or nothing because I'm just looking for a star field. I'm in a hurry because we've got clouds moving in, so that's why I didn't go through the whole calibration thing. I didn't even do a polar alignment. That's the other thing too, fellas. Let's try another one. Yeah, okay, now that one was a little bit better. Yeah, that's a little better. I'm gonna download this, guys, and we'll take it to the Cyril or GIMP and we'll pixel peep it.
Okay folks, we're going to pixel peep those frames that we took and see what kind of coma or lack thereof we got. Now those conditions were really challenging. I had to keep it to 1 second subs. Now we're way up in the upper right hand corner and I don't see anything being caused by coma. What I see is that same scattering of light due to the scope vibrating. But I don't see this start going like up in this corner or going in that direction or this direction or that direction, which would be indicative of coma. So let's come across, we're all the way up to the top now, going across, and every one of these has that same discrepancy. This is only a 1 second sub, and yet we got that kind of disturbance. The wind was just wicked. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden it just kicked up and got wicked. Now here I see what could be coma, because you see that little angle? It's going on an angle a little bit up in this corner here. See that? So maybe that. But over here, no. Okay. Let's come on down here. Yeah, you see that's a little bit what could indicate coma, but this over here is not. Of course, this is just one frame and at 1 second. Okay, well, let's take a look at another one. Okay, so now the guiding arrow looks like it's straight up and down, like in this direction, like that. We don't have that little light scatter, so that's good. So anything we see straight up and down is not coma, it's guiding error. Okay, we're all the way over to the far right. And these are roundish, but a little elongated, like this one here. And this is straight up and down. Let's go all the way up in the corner. Straight up and down, straight up and down. Now typically, guys, I don't pixel peep, but for this demonstration I think we need to, just to establish whether a generic 1X coma corrector will work with this scope. And again, if you look at the top of the frame, we're straight up and down. I don't see that as coma. And once again, going across the top of the frame, everything is straight up and down in line with the guiding error. And yeah, this straight up and down, straight up and down. We're almost to the end. In fact, we are at the end. Okay, so here we are at the very end, and all I see is straight up and down. I don't see anything going in this direction. So that's pretty good. Now the stars are more rounder down here, but they're straight up and down here. They're almost to the bottom here. I mean, nice. It looks good, guys. I mean, to me it does anyway. I don't have no problem using a generic on that. In fact, I'm going to use it. I'm going to use that Stellar Mirror. Now the field flattener was designed for f7. There was a range there on what it would handle. f7 was within that range. Okay, well, let's head back out to the HVO and the blistering wind. All right.
There you go, fellas. I'm gonna stop this. Well, fellas, I think that'll wrap it up. I mean, that pretty much, we went through the whole gamut there. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you know, it's your call, but that's what we got out of this review. And under these conditions, it was kind of extraordinary that we get what we got. Thanks for tuning into the channel. Y'all be safe. Clear skies. All right.
So, what's your thought?
Keeper.